And with that, I will call up Jim for the real estate forecast.
All right,
Thanks, Joel.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joel. That was a great presentation. And don't worry, I'm going to make it worse. I'm going to depress people more. I'm going to stand here because I've got a few notes. I didn't want to make my slides too busy. But I think half of you in this room could probably give this piece of the talk because nothing has really changed. Need that. So I'm just going to quickly go through some of these slides and kind of set the table really for the panel discussion. That's where the real benefit of this event is going to be, taking what Joel shared and talking about how we can impact things locally. So these are homes for sale. This is in the 11-county Rochester area, basically Auburn to Batavia, the Lake to Pennsylvania border is what we cover. And I just want to point out, I don't think this is anything new. This chart goes back to 2012. So we have 11 years of decline. You can see the decline, and it's been pretty consistent. In July of 2012, we had 7,000-ish, 7,400 homes for sale. July 2023, 1,300. So that's a big drop. And I don't say any more about that. Because that leads to this next one. New listings. So new listings is interesting. See this? Okay. So if you look over, this way, that period from 2016 to 2019, it's pretty consistent. It's dropping a little bit, but it's pretty consistent. The next couple are COVID, but look at that last one. From 22 to 2023 is a big drop. And this follows on from, or it's very much in line with the last slide. So homes for sale, dependent on new listings, we were pretty consistent for a while. Things were listed, things were sold, a lot of activity, but this is where it really starts to hit. As listings drop and sales have stayed high, so same thing. This is really tricky. Oops. If we go down to this area, sales stay high for a while, even while inventory is dropping. That's where we get to this really critical lack of inventory now. But look at that drop off the last year. And I think you all live that every day. So, sorry. Clicker's not my thing. So this is the result of that, is the median sales price. This is not quite a hockey stick chart, but it's going up really fast. It took us 13 years to go from 100 to 150 as a median. And it took us 3 years to get to 200. And a couple years, we're pretty much to 250. And if you look nationally, that is still very affordable compared to other cities, and we'll talk about this on the panel, cities that compete against us for developing or attracting businesses. If you go to Boston, average is 750. So this looks great, except if you are looking for a home here, this is really a problem. And here's the worst one, the month supply of inventory. Joel had a great slide where you said nationally it's about 3%, which is half of what it should be, and we're at 1.2%. So my math says that's a quarter of what it should be, and this is the problem. There is no supply. We get new listings, there's a lot of demand, they come off really quickly, we get the sales, but this is not sustainable. We literally can't go much lower than where we are now. And that is, I think now we're at the point where that is hindering our region's economic growth and our prospects for the future. And I have a couple of ideas why and some possible solutions. And this is where I think it starts to get interesting. So this is sales by price range over the last 4 or 5 years. And the yellow chart, or the yellow bar is the one I want to look at. That's the 100 to 199 price range. And you can see in 2021, we had 7,400-ish homes sold. 2023, 4,100. So part of that maybe is this median creeping up, and some homes that are sold that would have been in that price range are just now in the other one. But look at the kind of purplish chart next to it. That's not really changing that much. It's not going up. It's not like the 200 to 299 is picking up tons of listing or tons of sales because of that. That's pretty stable. So the question is, where are those listings going? If you look the last 3 years, the 300, 399, 400 and up are pretty much flat. So something is happening, and we're just losing those sales in that 100 to 199 range. And I think the answer is you can't build anything that you can sell in that price range. If it doesn't already exist, there's no way to fill that gap. And that's the problem. And we'll talk about that more on the panel. But this is where all of those people who want to be homeowners are blocked out of the market. And this is not going to change unless we as a community do something to make it change. So I just did it by percentage of price range, similar concept. I think only partially attributable to the median sale increasing, but in 2019, 45% of closings were in that 100 to 199. Now it's 30. Here you see a little bit more where that next level up is picking up some of the slack, but not enough to, I think, really make a difference. 2024 preview. Any questions on 2023? Everybody kind of knows that, right? I didn't have to change my slides all that much from last year. And I joked with Mike, we're doing our annual press release for the stats today, and we're running out of ways to describe the same situation. It's challenging as a writer to describe it differently. It's the same situation. So these are the factors that impact pricing. So what's gonna change? Inventory of homes, probably not. Interest rates, Joel just talked about that. I looked on Realtor.com. I didn't want to give any one lender a plug here, but the fixed mortgage rate, 6.8% in the Rochester area. It's not awful. It's better than it was, but it's way more than people are used to, and that's leading to that lock-in effect, and you hear it every day. Recession, we don't know. Election year politics, there's a strong trend that in election year, the whole government tries to spur the economy so they can make their case better. So maybe that helps. But like Joel said, if the economy gets better, that drives the Fed to maybe not be as helpful on their end. So who knows what's going to happen? Inflation is above the Fed's target. That doesn't come down fast. Joel talked about that. But all of these things lead us to say, I don't know what's going to change. There's nothing that says to me 2024 is going to be any different locally than 2023 was. So that's where we now are in 4 years of that environment. And so now I think it's time for us to be the change. And so part of the reason for this event, we want to invite a lot of local community leaders, elected officials in to hear this message and talk about how this critical shortage is now kind of stalling what we as a region can do. One more. So looking toward the future, this is where it gets tricky. We have to solve this. I spoke at length last year about how we live, where we live is going to change. Ownership models revolving, we can talk about that. The need for housing is constant, and it is not being met right now the way people would like, as you know, because there are hundreds and hundreds of buyers who would like to own a home, and they can't. So they're forced to rent, and rent prices go up. It's not ideal. Many, many people are not in their ideal living situation. So we need to solve it. I thought your chart, Joel, about the homeownership rates by generation was really interesting. And you can see it clear as people get younger, the homeownership rate drops. And that makes sense. What worries me, and everybody says, what keeps you up at night? This actually does keep me up at night. I worry that these next couple generations aren't going to be able to own homes. It is to that point where as prices go up, things become unaffordable. Mortgage rates aside, just prices going up makes it less affordable. People forced to rent for longer are less likely to be able to save for a down payment, for closing costs, for all those things. It makes that gap wider. And so now we have smart people who run trillion-dollar companies who are saying owning single-family homes and renting them is a pretty good business model. They have an asset that's appreciating, and I get good current income. Let's get into this. And so you have companies like Blackstone who own hundreds of thousands of single-family homes in this country, and they buy tens to 20s to 30s thousands a year. Jeff Bezos, one of the 5 richest men in the world, started a fund to buy single-family homes to rent them last year. So think about that. Think about we're making it harder for people to afford and get access to home ownership. And you have people with tons of money who can come in with cash, outcompete the first-time home buyer, buy that home, I'll rent it to you, but the rent's gonna be high. You're not gonna be able to save any money, and this gap just gets wider and wider. And so now think about the guy who built Amazon is gonna own single-family homes and rent them. So at what point do we get to, I'm not happy with my apartment, I'm gonna go to Amazon and see what Amazon has? And that should scare us, because that impacts every single person in this room's long-term future in this industry. So there's nothing wrong with rental. Rental is a really critical part, and we will talk about how critical it is. But the opportunity for people to become owners is a really big problem. And rental is a piece of it in your housing journey. But I think as a community, we want to encourage and provide access to people from all price segments, all regions, all sizes of housing to get the type of housing they want. And when it's rental, great. When it's owner occupied, that's great. If they want a starter home, something that $100,000 and $199,000 range, we ought to be able to provide it to them. And we can't right now. We simply can't. So my goal is, we've got some really smart people to come on this panel and talk about how that's happening. But I would love for us to leave this event today going, we as a community, our industry, elected leaders, nonprofits, business and economic development people working together to say, how can we start filling this gap? And we're gonna have to be creative. I think Jim will tell us on the panel, you can't build a home for $199,000. You can't even build it. Probably can't even buy the materials for $190,000, let alone have somebody build it. So what are we gonna do? We gotta be creative in how we do this, and we have some ideas. We put together a white paper that outlines, a good chunk. I think it's down to like 15 or 20 pages long. It's available on our website, Fix Rock Housing. Go to grar.org/fix-rock housing. We'll get the link out to everybody. But it's worth reading. There's an executive summary that's 1 page. There's a condensed version, like 4 pages. And then if you really get interested, there's like 30 pages. There are a lot of ideas, and they all exist. They all work. They've been done other places in the country. There's nothing new, but this is the high-level action plan. We need to start embracing smaller scale housing to bring the price down. Trying to find regulatory and permitting and zoning relief to get things faster, cheaper. Leveraging infrastructure we already have in place, leveraging buildings that are already in place, commercial reuse where it's appropriate. There's lots of ideas that have all been done and all been proven to work. So I think there's an opportunity for us to embrace those and then move forward and start filling this need. So that is all I specifically wanted to say. I want to give as much time to Bob and Matt and Jim on the panel as we can to talk about what we do for going forward from here.